This comparative study will be a filmic focus on how elements of the French New Wave movement works with each movie's respective culture and society to mold movies in the Bildungsroman genre. The 400 Blows, directed by Francois Truffaut, was a good choice for this study because it was made during a crucial development point of the French New Wave movement and is often considered one of the most influential films in the movement. Moonlight is a good choice for this study because of the many similarities in both development and cinematography it shares with the movies of the French New Wave. Both The 400 Blows and Moonlight share similar developmental approaches. The 400 Blows was produced in a time where the French were rebuilding and nationalizing all aspects of their country after World War II. These aspects included culture. French films saw this effect as well, and the French New Wave films would often be driven by the director's vision, rather than the agenda of a production company. Moonlight took a similar approach to its development. While the movie was produced by production companies, the movie was illustrated mostly by director Barry Jenkins. Because these movies were influenced so heavily by the directors, both movies were semi-autobiographical. The life of our protagonist Antoine in The 400 Blows seems to replicate the life of director Truffaut. Both were rebellious and troublemakers. While Antoine did mess around in class, the punishment he received would be considered by most harsh. This mean treatment can depict the ways that France was trying to strengthen and reinforce themselves after their losses in World War II. The movie shows a scene where Antoine lies to his teacher after playing hooky. Antoine tells his teacher that his mother had died. This is very similar to a moment in Truffaut's life where he told his teacher that his father had been arrested by Germans. Moonlight also shared many similarities to the life of Jenkins. Moonlight was adapted from the play In Moonlight Black Boys Look Blue, written by Terrell Alvin McCraney. Our protagonists Chiron, McCraney, and Barry all had a mother who struggled with an addiction to drugs. Parts of the movie were shot in Barry's hometown of Miami, helping to accentuate his connection and influence on the movie. Jenkins took another aspect of McCraney's original portrayal of Chiron by making him gay. This also helps to incorporate another aspect typical of the French New Wave, the portrayal of social and/or cultural changes or controversies of the time. Having the movie be about a gay black man helps give insight and perspective on two minority groups within the current American society. And since these two groups are often the subject of political controversy, they easily represent that aspect of the French New Wave movement. Another aspect of French New Wave films that both movies utilize is a low budget. Both The 400 Blows and Moonlight have relatively low budgets when compared to the production of other movies of their times. Because of the limited budgets, the production crews couldn't build sets for their movies, requiring them to be filmed on location. Filming movies on site is a part of what gives French New Wave films their genuine nature. The low budget also helps with the development of the film from the director's perspective. James Laxton, the cinematographer behind Moonlight, said that big production companies are approaching movies with a committee of directors, and because there's a lot of money going into these movies, everyone feels a need to implement their own idea of what the film should be, when in reality, audiences are really looking for a personal and unique vision on something. This quote is able to capture the essence of what French New Wave films are about, the director telling a genuine, authentic story that they've decided to develop. Another aspect of the French New Wave that both movies utilized was a lack of control over certain aspects to help make the movie more authentic. During the production of The 400 Blows, Truffaut would often let lead director Jean-Pierre Léaud improvise his lines. This can be seen when Antoine is being questioned by a psychologist towards the end of the movie. Truffaut let Léaud answer the questions however he liked, helping to add to the authenticity of his answers. Jenkins had a similar lack of control over the portrayal of both Juan and Chiron, but in a different way. Juan, played by Mahershala Ali, was a father figure to Chiron for a portion of Chiron's life. Ali often didn't rehearse his scenes for the movie, so his portrayal of Juan was made very fresh because of this. Our protagonist Chiron is portrayed through 3 different acts and through 3 different actors. In McCraney's portrayal of the story, all 3 versions of Chiron interacted, but in Moonlight, the actors weren't even allowed to interact during the production of the film. This helped to emphasize Chiron's development throughout his life because no 2 versions of Chiron were basing their actions off of another. The 400 Blows and Moonlight also implemented cinematic and editorial techniques akin to films of the French New Wave. Another aspect of French New Wave films that both movies implemented were long tracking shots. At the end of the 400 Blows, there is a tracking shot that is over a minute long of Antoine running from the observation center where he is instituted. This scene helps the audience to see and ponder on Antoine's development from someone who is playful and mischievous to someone who is lost and confused. The shot is long and offers little action, and he is only accompanied by the diegetic sound of his running and birds chirping. This emptiness amplifies Antoine's isolation that develops around him throughout the course of the movie. Moonlight offers an almost 2-minute tracking shot for its opening scene. We find Juan is checking in on one of his dealers who is having an interaction with someone looking to get some drugs. Tracking shots are a great way to immerse an audience in the action on the screen, and we see Laxton utilize this technique in an extremely effective manner. The shot establishes one aspect of present-day American society that the film focuses on, the reality and struggles that impoverished African Americans have to deal with. The shot also helps establish another running theme and motif that we see affect the plot throughout the movie, a person's struggle with addiction. French New Wave directors often use unique cinematic techniques to depict the film. In a scene where Antoine is trying to sleep, off-camera dialogue between his mother and father shows how unstable his family life is. The audience can see the saddened look in his eyes as he listens to his parents bickering. This scene helps to deepen the complexity of his character, even with his lack of dialogue. A lack of dialogue can also be seen in Moonlight. Our main character Chiron, referred to as Little in the first act, doesn't speak for a long portion of the beginning of the movie. This lack of dialogue from Little is able to express his lack of trust and feeling of isolation he has towards others. This aspect of the film also exemplifies the way homosexual men are treated within American society, showing the effects of bullying from both parents and others around you. Another unique technique that the 400 Blows uses to represent their movie is a zoom in to a freeze frame at the end of the film. This iconic movie ending is able to make the audience internalize the bewilderment and loneliness that Antoine feels in that moment. No one knows what his next action is, not even him, and this editing technique is able to illustrate the way his life at school and at home drove him to his seclusion. Moonlight is able to utilize color and sound in an interesting and unique way. In the scene where Paula, played by Naomi Harris, is yelling at Little, her room is illuminated by a pink light, and we can't hear any diegetic sound, just fast-paced, non-diegetic music. The pink light and music are able to exaggerate her emotions of hatred and confusion she has for both her son and herself. The intensity of this scene foreshadows the everlasting effects that Paula's feelings towards Chiron will have on him. This powerful performance also does a great job at showing how the mental effects of drug abuse that some American people struggle with can manifest themselves within someone. This performance also shows how drug abuse and homophobia has negatively impacted the development and growth of LGBTQ youths within present-day America. To conclude, both of these Bildungsroman films are made up of varying elements of the French New Wave movement. These films make use of various things, from small budgets, their directors' lives, their actors' natural acting ability, to unique cinematic and editorial techniques.